All right. Welcome to another episode of this One Piece discussion cast, where today we are discussing chapters 101 through 154. That is Reverse Mountain, Whiskey Peak, Little Garden, and Drum Island, and all leading up to Alabasta, which will be next episode, I'm guessing. I
Yep.
am Will. Today with me is Kyle from last time and Mr. Luke, who has had a lot of experience with One Piece from his early age.
Yep.
Yeah, guess we'll just jump right into it. Um, Starting with Reverse Mountain or Laboon. Um, I thought this arc was pretty good. It was short and kind of hinted by Luke to me that I was kind of feeling like this was going to be going somewhere in the future. Like this is kind of like a setup for something in the future, and
For
that's
sure.
what it struck me as. And yeah, what'd you guys think of this?
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
Will told me he thought it was a filler. He said,
Yeah.
"Is Laboon a filler?" And I just said, "No chance."
Laboon is definitely not filler, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, also like you get so much stuff in that arc that kind of like explains like the mechanics of the Grand Line, like how it's different from everything else. Like we learned about like the log poses and stuff, and like
Hmm.
how you can't just like basically we like get an answer as to like why you can't just sail to the end of the Grand Line. Like you have to like go through all of the islands first, and like kind of like use the log poses to get there. And we like learn a lot about like how crazy the Grand Line is in terms of like its weather and like just a bunch of how it's just like so much different from anything that they've seen up until this point,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool.
The crew's getting their bearings a bit here.
Yeah, and everyone's like
Yeah,
blaming
definitely.
Nami because Nami's supposed to be the navigator, and she's like, I have no fucking clue where the hell I'm going. Because that's before they get the log pose, and then they end up in the
Yeah,
calm, like on their way there, they end up in the calm belt, which is fight a or see a bunch of sea kings, which was pretty cool.
So I forget who gives them the first log pose.
I believe it's the guy
it's
in the
it's
whale, right?
Crocus. Yeah, it's
Okay.
the guy in the whale, Crocus. Yeah,
Okay.
but
Um,
they actually also kind of like just end up with there's kind of like some shenanigans with like Miss, I think it's Miss Wednesday is like Vivi's undercover name, and Mr.
Hmm.
Nine, they like kind of like end up with their log pose and then they'll like break it or
yeah,
something, and there's it's kind of like for a gag, but then Crocus is like, nah, I got you,
yeah. I
we
was
got
I
another
was
one.
I was like, oh my god, I just broke the log pose immediately.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, but I mean like, and that, I guess that's kind of an explanation for like why, because they kind of like tag along with them to Whiskey Peak.
yeah.
um
The introduction of Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday was like, I don't know. I got very Pokemon vibes, like Miss or Team Rocket type of thing, where it was
Yeah, I
like
totally see that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like this like gang that all has like crazy titles, and you get to see that a lot more throughout the next few arcs. And yeah, that's the immediate vibe that I got from it. But their introduction, they definitely seem like the silly henchman type, where it's just like, we'll get you next time.
Yeah. Well, we kind of work like over these couple arcs. We kind of work our way up to like stronger and stronger guys in Baroque Works, which is like the organization that
Yeah,
they're a part of,
I
and
was
like they're
surprised.
definitely like some lower tier guys.
I was surprised how fast the manga works through Baroque Works, but I'm guessing that's just because Baroque Works is the main enemy for this arc, not the main enemy for like later on. I can't remember
Oh,
who's
definitely not.
the leader's
Hmm.
crocodile or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So they want to work through
And
Baroque Works as quickly as they can for this arc.
Yeah, all of these arcs are kind of like uh they're kind of like setting up for Alabasta, which is, I think Alabasta is itself like as long as all of these arcs put together. So it's kind of like the culmination of like the Baroque works saga, I
Yeah.
guess, that we're kind of getting towards. So yeah,
Let's see. Anything else with the Reverse Mountain? It was pretty short.
I'd
yeah.
like to point out how they painted on Laboon. I thought that was pretty
I was
cool.
gonna
Oh,
say
Like,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
we get a
it's like,
throwback to win to Luffy's original plans for the Straw Hat flag.
yeah, yeah. And I also see it as like this is his first mark in the Grand Line. He's just like, I'm here, bitch.
The send off for Laboon was really great, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I also love Laboon's introduction. Like his eye is basically like as it's like bigger than the ship, and Luffy punches him like in the eye, which is like makes Laboon eat them. Pretty pretty funny. And also just like the fact that Crocus lives in the whale sometimes. Like he just has his own little island
Oh,
in the whale.
I was confused. There's like all these like like tunnels and like metal walkways and stuff inside Laboon. Did Crocus put those there?
Yeah, I think that he basically like he set this up because he needs to do so much work on the whale because Laboon is constantly banging his head in the red line because of he wants to like get to the other side so that he can see his old friends, his old pirate friends.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it. And then we end that arc with them chasing after Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday. Or no, they're with Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday, right? They lead them to
Yeah,
Whiskey
they kind
Peak.
of are just like you guys are not a threat, so we'll
Yeah,
just take you with us, I guess.
yeah,
I mean, they kind of like convince them to like not kill because they're like originally trying to kill Laboon to like bring food for Whiskey Peak, and they kind of like they're like okay like we're not going to do that, so they're like
yeah.
okay whatever we'll just bring you with us because we broke your log pose also.
And is Karoo with them? Don't forget about Karoo.
Oh yeah,
Who's?
that's right, Karoo. Wait, do we meet Karoo on Whiskey Peak
I think we meet
or
Karoo in
with
Whiskey
them
Peak.
in?
Yeah, because that's what I think.
Okay.
Karoo is introduced when. I think it might be when she reveals that she's Vivi.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like because I don't remember Karoo being on the ship on their way to Whiskey Peak, but I don't remember.
All right. Well, anyway, we're getting to Whiskey Peak right now. Anyway,
Sounds
Kyle,
good.
do you want to introduce Whiskey Peak?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when they get to Whiskey Peak, well, first thing that's cool about Whiskey Peak is like the design of it. It's like a giant cactus looking mountain, kind of. So it's kind of like the first. I mean, this is like the first like real island of the Grand Line, and it's got some wacky, like it's just a weird setting, I guess. Um, and like everyone there is like really welcoming to pirates, which like kind of makes sense because it's like a lot of pirates go on the Grand Line, and this is one of the initial islands that you can go to from Reverse Mountain. So it kind of makes sense that there's a bunch of people that love pirates and are so welcoming to them. At least that's what the crew thinks. But then when they're all asleep after like a big party, uh, they all turn out to be bounty hunters and try to kill them.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, like literally everyone, which I thought was funny. Like even like there are like women and children that are doing it too.
yeah. Are those supposed to
And
be? I can't remember. The Baroque Works has the millions and the thousands, or is it the millions and billions? Millions and billions, right?
yeah, I think it's millions and billions.
So I'm guessing the people in that
These
town.
these are like the lowest tier guys, you know.
Yeah. Um.
I mean, except for like there are some like officer level ones that come in, but yeah, like Zoro basically has a little moment where he's just killing a bunch of them, but he doesn't kill the women and the children because he's nice. Um,
Yeah. One thing I liked about this arc, and I think it happens later as well, we get to see Zoro. Like before this, we had only seen Zoro fight like injured, and
yeah, that's true.
we're
Yeah,
finally seeing him like fight like rested and not injured, and he just beats everyone's ass.
He takes on 100 bounty hunters at once. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
pretty
pretty
sick.
sick.
he's a
Um,
beast.
And it's also kind of cool because he just got his new swords, so he's kind of
yeah,
like testing out his new swords.
and
Um, and he even says like one of them is a little like, "Ooh, that one cut when I didn't expect it to."
yeah,
Um, it's kind of like
um,
it's got a little attitude.
and then
I think that was the first one.
um, Luffy eats a ton of food and is just like running around, and then he tries to fight Zoro at one point, which was pretty funny. And everyone
Yeah,
else is just like,
kind
"What
of
the
like a
hell is
gimmick
going
thing.
on?"
Yeah. I
Um,
really like how at this point like we've kind of introduced some other like Baroque Works officers. Like we've got the I think Mr. Five is the one who does the explosions. Um and then Miss Valentine is like the one with the parasol who can change her weight.
who's the double
And
agent
like
guy?
um Igarim
He's
is
like
I
Mr.
don't
Eight,
remember.
right?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, Igor
But the
Rat Boy.
yeah, that's his fake name, which is like, brilliantly disguised. Um but yeah, like when Luffy and Zoro are like having their fight and like Mr. Five and Miss Valentine are like trying to explain their powers and like fight them, and they're just like, stop, like we're having a fight right now, like chill.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
they're like trying to be intimidating and threatening and like explaining their powers, and they're just like, stop,
I think Zoro literally
which
just
is like
says
pretty
like
funny.
Zoro literally like, man, you guys are so annoying.
Yeah. Which is funny because this is the grand line, like this has been
Yeah.
built up to be like this huge like threat, and this is like the first time where we have like opponents that are from the grand line, and even still like Luffy and Zoro are just, they're a cut above.
Well, these guys are presumably born on the Grand Line, right? I'm guessing.
I would imagine
Yeah, they
so.
they yeah, yeah.
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 I mean, not all of them, because we do like, which cool detail is like Zoro like kind of recognizes the name Baroque Works. He's just like, oh, these guys tried to recruit me, which like makes sense because he was a bounty
He
hunter
was a
and they're all
bounty
bounty
hunter. Yeah.
hunters.
Yep.
Yeah,
Um,
which is cool because it's like, it's like before they were a crew, and it's kind of like from his past, and it kind of like makes sense. It fits with like the enemies that we're currently facing. It's kind
yeah,
of cool.
and it kind of answered a question that I had because I was curious, like, okay, once they get to the Grand Line, or like even small children, like anybody born on the Grand Line is just automatically like another power level, or and this kind of answered
Yeah, no,
that,
they're definitely
like,
regular people. Yeah,
yeah, it just
yeah.
takes a lot of skill to get onto the Grand Line, so presumably anybody that gets there is gonna be pretty strong.
Yeah, and also like to navigate between the islands on the Grand Line.
Yeah. And then we get introduced to We don't see him, but they talk about Crocodile, who is one of the. What are those? I always forget those guys are called.
Uh,
Shichibukai,
Yeah,
yeah,
Shichibukai.
7 warlords of the
Yeah.
sea. Yep.
So now we've met two of them, Hawkeye and Crocodile, I think.
yes, yeah.
Um,
And oh, also there was a name drop of one of them in the Arlong Park arc. They say that like Arlong used to be a crewmate of a Shichibukai named Jinbei,
oh
who
yeah.
we like. That's pretty much all they said about him. But so we basically know the names of three of them so far.
hmm
Have you seen? Well, obviously you saw Mihawk, but did they show any images of Crocodile yet at
I,
all?
I don't think in this arc
They
they
show
do.
him, yeah, not in Whiskey Peak, not in Whiskey
Okay.
Peak.
They
Okay.
show him during Drum Island for sure. They might even talk about him in Little Garden when they
Yeah, but it's
all of them
all
are
like in
together.
shadow. It's all in shadow. We
Yeah.
don't really see his
Hmm.
design.
Yeah,
You
they do that a lot.
see his big crocodile
Hmm.
though.
That's true. He does have a crocodile.
He does have a pet crocodile. I forgot about that. Uh, I was reading. I was just kind of looking up Whiskey Peak here, and it mentions that Nami and Zoro are in a drinking contest
Oh
with the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
townsfolk, and that's
Yeah.
that's always a classic thing that they do at New Islands, pretty much.
Um, it's always like I thought it was pretty funny when they were doing the drinking contest, and I think Zoro beats Nami or Nami beats Zoro, and then they start attacking them, and Zoro was like, "Yeah, pff, I was just pretending to be drunk," and then Nami like 5 minutes later was like, "Pff, "Yeah, I was also pretending just to be drunk."
It's like, when are they going to show their true alcoholism power levels? Like,
Yeah.
that's what I want
Yeah.
to know. What's the power scaling for their ability to drink alcohol? Yeah.
And then yeah, so we get to see that Miss uh was it Friday? Who was she before? Miss Wednesday.
Miss Wednesday,
Was
I think. Yeah.
actually Vivi, who is Princess of Alabasta, and she has Karoo with her, who is a giant duck, right? Duck, yeah.
Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, so she's infiltrated this group because she's trying to save her home, who she believes Crocodile is um, trying to basically coup it. And so yeah,
Hmm.
she's infiltrated his group to try to stop them. And she's joined by Mr. Eight, who is uh, Igaram, and that I think what is he like one of their guards, one of the town guards for Alabasta.
Yeah. He's like one of the royal guards. Yeah.
And he was all right, but he kind of dies like right at the end of the arc, which is like, oh, okay,
Right.
well,
Yeah. I mean, like we see that that's when we get our introduction to Miss All Sunday
yeah,
from the Baroque works, where she basically like Igarim is like, all right, I'm going to like dress up as Vivi, and he like puts on lipstick, and like he has like Vivi's like sexy hypnosis outfit on, and then he's like sailing away. He's like, all right, I'm gonna be the decoy. but then he just immediately gets blown up, and then Miss All Sunday reveals herself, and she's like super menacing because she just blew up
Yeah,
the
and I
ship.
think the only thing we get to see about Miss All Sunday during the later arcs, and I'm guessing they'll fight her during Alabasta, is just like she's just like his right hand man or right hand woman,
Hmm.
Crocodile.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
always like right next to him, just being like cool. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, we just see
And
like
she
a.
offers them an eternal pose.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
she says like so we learn about eternal poses, which are basically like log poses, except they are pointing to one island like forever, and nothing can change that. Whereas the log poses, like when you get to the next island that they're pointing to, they need to recalibrate to point to the next one. So log poses are like kind of like a long-term solution for like getting all the way down the Grand Line. Whereas like eternal poses are like, all right, if you want to know how to get to this one island, no matter where you are, that's what this is for.
yeah.
And so she offered for not for Alabasta, but for I think it's like like the island of nothing, which is like the an island that's like right before Alabasta on the Grand Line. And she basically says you can take this route, which is easier than the route that your log post is pointing to now. And then
Then Luffy
Luffy,
destroys it.
like, yeah,
Luffy's like,
He,
yeah,
oh, he
fuck.
destroys the eternal pose.
Yeah, he just fucking
yeah, he's
says,
like, nah, fuck that.
you're not choosing where we're going,
Nice.
which is good
Yeah,
because then we would not have gotten to Little Garden, which was I think it was probably my favorite out of these arcs, just because I like the two
yeah,
giant
Little
guys a
Garden's
lot.
really good. Yeah, the Giants are dope.
But yeah, they get to a place called Little Garden, which is. Wait, do you guys have anything else about Whiskey Peak that you want to talk about, or?
Um, well, I kind of like how like when Vivi asks for help, I like how Nami is like, all right, well, how much are you gonna pay us?
Oh yeah,
Like, or when Igaram asks for help and he like explains the situation, and she's like, all right, that sounds like it's worth about 1 billion belly. Um, and then they're like, what? Like, she could be being murdered right now. And then she's like, all right, fine, we'll go help her out, I
yeah.
guess. But like, I do expect a reward. So Nami loves money.
But yeah, then Vivi and was it Karoo tag along, and they go
Mm-hmm.
over to Little Garden, which is a prehistoric island, I think they're called, right? Um, it's got
Yeah,
tons of
basically.
dinosaurs, and it's also got two giants who are pretty friendly. I
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
honestly
they
thought
are.
when I was reading like they were gonna be like just planning to eat them because when they both get captured separately, one of them I think it was Dory had like a bunch of bones around him. He's like, "Oh, you want to eat?"
Uh-huh.
And one of the, I think it was Usopp's literally like, "Oh God, he's fattening us up to eat
Yeah.
us."
Yeah,
Um,
Dory and Bragi are pretty friendly, and uh, I'd like to point out that uh, it's interesting that we meet giants in the One Piece world because they're actually somewhat rare. So
mm, yeah, they were
Mm-hmm.
like they were pretty cool. Like I don't know. I don't really know if we ever got to see like how strong they were because they talked about their backstory. Like these two giants were in a pirate crew and they literally nobody could stop them, and they were just that powerful. And I was like, that's really
Yeah.
cool. And we didn't. I don't think we ever really got to see their full strength during this, which I was okay with.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I think the closest that we get is like at the end when they do their Elbaf spear through the Sea King that's
oh
about to
yeah,
eat
that was
them,
super cool.
or that does eat them,
Yeah,
and then they like uh it eats the going Mary, and then they like do their spear to kind of like poke a big hole through it, and then they like burst out of the
yeah,
back, which is pretty sick
that was
ending to the
super
arc.
cool.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, they're both captured independently. Like
Hmm.
was it Zoro and Luffy, and then just Usopp by himself?
Um, no,
Because
I think it
Sanji's
was
like
Usopp was
MIA this entire chapter.
Yeah, Usopp was with Luffy. And then I think uh Usopp, Luffy, and Vivi were together. They were with one of them.
Yeah,
Sanji was like off on his own. He because him and Zoro were in a contest to see like who could
who could hunt more?
catch the biggest game or whatever for because they were hungry. And they wanted to eat, and Sanji was gonna cook up a meal. And I think that with the other giant was well, who does that leave? Nami and
Usopp, right?
I thought Usopp was with Luffy. No, you're right. Yeah,
I
no,
thought
it
Usopp
was
was by
Vivi and
himself.
Luffy. It
Yeah.
was Vivi and Luffy, and it was Nami and Usopp. Yeah.
Um, yeah, Sanji was like I like Sanji a lot, and him just being MIA this entire chapter was like super frustrating. Because
Yeah,
you
Sanji's
don't hear
cool.
from him until like after everything has gone down in the
Oh,
chapter.
well, now that you say that, Will, I gotta ask, Sanji or Zoro?
Right now probably Zoro,
Okay,
just
okay.
because I've seen more of him, more of what he's capable of.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think Zoro has definitely had more like moments up until this point.
Also,
Um,
Sanji's a Giga Simp.
but Sanji will get his time to shine.
He is a Giga Simp.
Yeah. But it's kind of like he's so much of a simp that it's kind of you kind of respect it. You know, you're like, all right,
No, what?
good
Yeah.
move.
He's
He's got
got
a code, you know, he's got principles.
What do you
yeah.
mean he's got principles? He's literally like fawning over Nami at 1 second, and then as soon as somebody else, like another female, talks in his vicinity, he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll be right there."
The
his
nosebleeds is shooting out.
Yeah.
his principles are that all women are queens.
Yeah,
That's
true.
his principles.
But
But
yeah,
yeah,
so
like
he's MIA pretty much the entire chapter, because he's off
yeah,
doing his
until the
hunting
very
thing.
end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get the introduction of Mr. Five, Miss Valentine, or not introduction, but we have Mr. Five, Miss Valentine, Mr. Three, and Miss Golden Week are all on the island as well,
Hmm.
and they're up to
They
their
basically followed them. Yeah.
yeah, they're up to their mischief. We get a little mini thing with Mr. Three and Miss Golden Week. They're at like a resort for one point.
Yeah.
Um,
Mr. Three's got a pretty dope haircut as well.
yeah, he's got an interesting haircut. Doesn't somebody like make a comment about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, like at the very beginning, like Miss like they're getting their mission or whatever, and Miss Golden Week, she like says, "Oh, like Mr. Three, like we just got like our mission or whatever." And Mr. Three's like, "Please do not use our code names like in public. That's really not good." And like he literally has like the giant three like that's on fire, or I don't know
Yeah,
if it's on fire at the time, but he has like the giant three coming out of his head. Just a yeah, good visual gag. I like
yeah,
that.
and it fits with his powers because he's about uh all about them candles and the wax. So
Yeah,
having
yeah.
his
His
three on
hair is
fire is
basically
like a
just the
candle
candle,
itself.
like the wick. Yeah.
Yep.
Miss Golden Week's all
It's
about painting, and then we know Mr. Five is the explosion guy, and Miss Valentine. What was her power? Oh, she was the weight person.
yeah, she can like change her weight.
She was. I think she's the lamest out of all three, all four of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love how like in Whiskey Peak, like when she's introducing her power, she's like, "Oh yeah, like I can like change my weight so that it's like nothing, so that I can float really high, and then I can like make it like 100 pound or like 1,000 pounds and like come crashing down." And Zoro like avoids this attack by just moving slightly to the left, and she just falls like right next to him and completely misses him.
Yeah.
That's
That was good shit.
that's like Kirby mains in Smash Bros.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Yeah,
is actually what I was
she's
thinking of.
literally Kirby.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
very Kirby move.
yeah,
But yeah, they basically have a plan to trick the Giants into beating each other up. Um,
yeah.
and so they injure Brogy?
I don't remember to be
No, they injure
honest.
Dory. They injure Dory,
Okay.
and Dory and Brogy are fighting basically every day, every time the volcano
Yeah.
erupts or makes
Uh-huh.
noise. And so they've been doing this for hundreds of years or 100 years, and
Hmm.
evenly matched. And then the Baroque Works interferes with it and injure Dory,
Yeah.
and making it so Brogy wins the fight. And I thought Brogy killed Dory, um, and I kind
Yeah,
of wish that he did because I feel like that would have been more impactful.
for sure.
Just because like
Yeah.
he hits Brogy, or sorry, he hits Dory, and Dory like it looks like he dies, but then by the end of the chapter, he just like, oh, yep, I'm good.
Yeah.
And like they're
I mean, I don't
giants.
know if I don't know if I really mind like I mean, okay, well, basically, like this is kind of like a common complaint about One Piece is that like no one ever dies in One Piece, and I think this is kind of like the first like example of this, um, and so I mean like, but I think in this specific case, I don't really mind it because what one of the the big kind of like themes of the Little Garden arc is like this like how they both like have their pride, like they're both like they don't even know why they're still fighting anymore. They're just fighting because like they're that's like their pride as warriors, their pride as men, and they want to like keep that up. And they both clearly are like they really enjoy like fighting each other. And like when Brogy like accidentally when he thinks that he kills Dory or not accidentally, but when he thinks that he kills him, he's like he's really sad. And they're like, oh, why are you sad? You must you're so happy because you killed him. Like that's what the Burks guys are saying.
Yeah.
But then he's like clearly he's sad because he just killed like his best friend. But they were their pride and what like Usopp kind of describes it as like a flag that's like standing tall like in their hearts and like no matter what they can't like let this flag be taken down. And that's one of the things that's really cool about like this arc is that like Usopp resonates so strongly with that like he when he hears about this like when he hears about their fight he's like oh I want to be like them like that's what I want to be like um and I like how like there's like a little gag like when he says that Nami's like oh you want to be a giant and he's like no I want to be like brave like them like I want to be able to like stand tall and like protect like
Mm-hmm.
what I believe in and like be able to kind of like carry myself as a warrior in that way.
Mm.
And so I feel like if like the dead one, I don't remember Dory or Brogy, if he had stayed dead, it would kind of be like it would be like saying that standing like having those convictions is kind of like a bad thing. It would be like he would be punished for wanting to continue with the fight, he was even though like he was injured. So I don't know. I think in this case it's fine because it's kind of like it fits with like the overall themes of the arc. I would say.
Yeah.
I particularly remember Dory and Bragi, their laugh. Like this was the first time as I'm watching One Piece where I notice the One Piece laughs
Yeah,
because
every character, or yeah,
yeah,
because pretty much every
Dory's walking
character
around
has.
going yeah 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 yeah,
Yeah,
and I thought like it was just such the weirdest thing, but yeah, it's pretty funny.
yeah. Pretty much, there are like a lot of characters like as we go through the series that have like unique laughs. Like even like on the wiki, a lot of times like it will say, "Oh, like this character's laugh is this." Like
That's
they
it,
have like
really.
different. Yeah.
That's pretty
So there
funny.
are a lot of unique laughs for all of the different characters,
I've
which is
definitely noticed I haven't seen. I don't think I watched any scenes from the anime for Little Garden, but I've definitely noticed like different characters having gya 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 as their laugh, like written out.
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Yeah, he writes it out in the manga even.
Yeah. It's usually
Yeah.
either gya 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 or kya kya kya.
Yeah.
For the Giants, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, let's see what happens after that. I guess they all get tricked by Mr. Three makes a bunch of wax sculptures that are pretend, and Miss Golden Week paints them to look like people, and they end up
Uh-huh.
capturing Zoro, Vivi, and Nami, and
Yeah.
in this just crazy contraption that is way more complicated than it needs to be. But
Yeah.
slowly covering them in wax and like putting wax inside of them, and I thought it was like a pretty funny just series of events because like this entire time these henchmen people are like kind of like these Team Rocket type of people, so of course they have this overly complicated contraption to kill these people.
Hmm.
Um, and also at the same time you've got like Zoro being like, don't worry, I'll just chop my legs off. And they're like, why the hell would you do that? And then he's like, all right, let me just strike a pose really quick. And then Nami's like, what the fuck are you doing? And he's just like, you should have struck a pose before it was too late. Now you're gonna die like some kind of chump.
There's some great Zorro comedy moments when he's stuck there. But
Yeah.
like I legitimately think that like his he like actually starts to cut his legs off,
Yeah.
like he wasn't kidding about that. Like he's like, you know what? It's better for me to die a free man than for me to like be like dead like in encased in wax. You know, like I'd rather die like bleeding out because I cut off my legs so that I could be free than die like a prisoner, which is incredibly badass. Like that is yeah, that's like
Yeah.
that's definitely like the most badass Zoro moment in my opinion up until this point. Just
Um,
like as like a character moment, like
Also, he's like,
Yep.
that he
they're
literally
like, what are you
starts
gonna
to sucks
do? What's your plan after you cut your legs off? He's like, I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. Let me just, I'll just do it and then I'll attack him or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a classic One Piece moment that like combines like the comedy and like the badassness. You
Yeah,
know, like it was simultaneously really funny because they're like, "What are you gonna do? Run away without your legs?" But then it was also really badass because it's like he actually did it. You know, like he was actually
He was
starting to do it, and
ready.
then Luffy shows up, and then he's like, "Oh, like there's like blood all over," and Luffy shows up, and then he's like, "Okay, I should probably stop. I believe in my captain." And then
yeah,
he's like, "All right, but just in case, I'm gonna strike this pose."
yeah. And Luffy frees them with Usopp. They use, I forget, what do they use for the heat to like melt the wax?
I mean, like Usopp has his fire stars.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think he uses that. Yeah,
Usopp has his fire stars. And I think this is
yeah.
the first time we get to see his Tabasco star that he like mentioned like
Yes, it was, but it's been foreshadowed. You know,
yeah,
like that was
exactly. He's like I'm working on a
foreshadowed
new
back in.
Tabasco star in like chapter 80 and we
Yeah,
finally get to see the Tabasco star in action.
yeah, it's great.
Pretty sick. Um
And I remember you had even mentioned that like last episode.
yeah.
So when I saw that, I was like, oh, here it is,
Yeah.
Tabasco star.
Well, it's just like a nice little downtime moment where they're all chilling on the Going Merry and Usopp's like I'm working on my new thing and like everyone else is doing their own thing.
Yeah,
And it's cool you get to see that pay off.
yeah, exactly.
Um
Oda never forgets.
yeah. And then yeah, so they save those three and they beat those four henchmen. And I can't remember if there's anything. There wasn't anything like particularly crazy about the battle. I don't think.
One thing I did like about the battle is like you had mentioned how crazy a contraption the candelabra or whatever that was turning everyone to wax
Yeah.
was. Um, and like literally like there was one point where Luffy, he has like his like hammer attack that like he's kind of like turning um Mr. Three's like wax, like he like puts something around his leg so that he can't move, but he like turns that into a hammer and he breaks a part of the contraption, but then like it actually because what happens is the burning parts like come closer to them because he like breaks like a middle
Oh
pillar or
yeah, he like
something, and
lowers
then
it and it's just.
they're like, oh, it's happening faster now, and it's like, and it's like, well, I mean, like, why did you need to have that in the first place if it would have been faster to just not have it?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
But yeah, so they beat those guys, and then I think it was Zoro, or no, maybe it was Sanji that finds the shack in the middle of the in the rainforest, and
Yeah, it was
he like
Sanji.
he beats up the unfriendlies. Is that what they're called?
I think so, something
Uh,
like that.
yeah,
The like the little
unluckies.
otter and like the yeah, oh, the unluckies. That's what
Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
the unluckies. So he beats up the unluckies, and then he like answers a phone call from Crocodile, where he's just
yeah.
like, I think he pretends to be one of them, and Crocodile's like, "Have you done it?" And he's like, "Yep, I've done it." And then Crocodile's like, "All right, I'm gonna send some guy to like meet you there," and then he sends a guy to like kill Mr. Three, I believe.
Yeah,
And he's like under the assumption that that was not Sanji, that was like one of his people. Um,
yeah.
Sanji
Pretty
with
cool
that
moment from Sanji.
undercover,
yeah,
that
Yeah.
undercover work.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Um,
mean, I think it's funny how he like originally answers it like it's a prank call. Like
yeah.
he's like he like says like, oh, like this shitty restaurant or something.
Yeah.
Um, and so at least that's what it said in my translation.
Yeah.
And like, but then he quickly realizes what's actually happening, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, I was just kidding, Mr. Crocodile or Mr. Zero,
Yeah.
because they're not supposed to know."
And yeah, and then they all meet up, and Dory is not dead, and he reunites with Brogy, and they help them get to the next island with their cool ass, like super cool moment where they do the, what do they call it? The
Elbaf Spear.
ginormous,
Elbaf is the island where they're from,
yeah,
or is
Elbath
it called the
spear.
Elbaf Spear?
I think
Yeah, I
so.
think so. Because Elbaf is, they say that that's the island where they're from, and Usopp says, "I want to go there."
Yeah. So they're off to the next island because they get, um, don't they get a poise to Alabasta from somebody?
Yes, yeah, they get it from. Um, I mean, I think they get it from like some of the Baroque works people. I
Yeah.
think they get it from the Unluckies actually.
Yeah, I believe they
Yeah,
do.
because there's like Sanji comes because they've been thinking. Well, the giants had told them that the log post takes a year to set to the next island on Little Garden, and so they're like, shit, there's no way we're gonna stay here for a year. But then Sanji shows up. He got the Eternal Post to Alabasta.
Hmm. But yeah, they are off to Alabasta, but we know that they don't get there immediately because they get to Drum Island next. And on the way to Drum Island, they meet the person that's supposed to be killing Mister Three, who was that? Or is that after Drum Island?
No, I don't think that they actually meet Mister Two.
Doesn't Mister Two
They
like maybe that's I think that's after after
oh, have you started reading? Are you on? Have you started
maybe
reading
yeah
Alabasta?
I think that's
Okay.
me reading ahead.
Okay, yeah. So what happens is like they they start to go to Alabasta, but then Nami ends up being sick, so they
Yeah.
like don't go to Alabasta. They just sort of like start kind of sailing, trying to find an island with a doctor on it.
Hmm.
It's closer than Alabasta, and like but in the meantime, like Mister Two, who has been sent to kill Mister Three, is going from Alabasta to Little Garden. So if they had gone straight to Alabasta, they probably would have ran into Mister Two,
Hmm.
but they didn't. They went to well, first they run into Wapol, um,
Yeah. Oh, that's what I'm thinking of.
and
Yeah, they
his
ran into Walpole and they
yeah
beat his ass.
Yeah, Wapple is pushover, man.
yeah
Yeah,
yeah
they
pretty
Walpole like
much
jumps on their he they like find him and he jumps on their ship and then Luffy basically he just starts eating their ship and then Luffy just
yeah
beats his ass into the water and they're like, "Oh shit, he can't swim. We gotta go save our captain."
yeah
And they're all pretending to be pirates, but they are not.
yeah
Uh, and they get to a very wintry island known as Drum Island,
mm-hmm.
where there is only one doctor, um, and it is a witch that lives on the mountain, and she only comes down like I think they said like once a week or something. It wasn't like a very common occurrence. Like they couldn't predict when she was going to come down.
Yeah. She
So
just comes down whenever she feels like it.
that led to Usopp and oh, no, not was it Usopp and Luffy?
It
Who
was
or
Luffy and Sanji.
Sanji and Luffy to climb up the mountain
Yeah,
to go see the witch.
yeah,
Um,
and they're carrying Luffy is carrying Nami
yeah,
on
because Nami is
his back.
very sick at this point.
How'd
Yeah.
she get sick?
It was
Well,
a
it's
fever
revealed
from Little
later.
Garden.
Oh,
Yeah, that
okay.
it's a fever from Little
Okay.
Garden.
Yeah, it was like some kind
It
of
was like
fever
a
that
little. It
was.
was like a prehistoric thing. There was like an ancient bacteria or something that wasn't around, and Kureha is like, that's her name, right? The old lady.
Yeah,
Yeah, Dr.
Yeah.
Kudeha. Yep.
Kureha is like, yeah. You must have gotten this from like walking around shirtless on a prehistoric island or something. And then Nami's like, huh? And she's like, oh, I was just kidding. But that's actually what happened.
yeah.
Because at some point Nami lost her shirt. I don't really remember the details of how, but
Hmm.
Oda
Probably
likes
Sanji.
tits. Yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, they're climbing up.
they're climbing up
They
and
fight
they
some rabbits.
fight some rabbits, start an avalanche,
Yeah. Yeah. They're
and
riding down. They
riding
like come back
down.
down on a tree.
And then in the meantime, they're all back at the town. Everyone else is back at the town, and Walpole comes back during like while they're climbing, right?
Yeah.
And he is apparently the ex-king of this place, and he was not a very good king. and he took all their doctors away and basically made it so everyone had to come to him to get their doctors, which is why Kureha was like such a big figure for this town because she's like her own doctor,
Hmm.
and why she's the only doctor is because Wapol has all the other doctors. Um, and so everyone else is off looking for Kureha because they've been told that she's been spotted in a town nearby, and the other two are still on the mountain. And then you have Wapol. He's fighting one of the people from Drum Island itself that has I can't remember what fruit he ate. Uh,
Are you talking about Wapol?
no, Wapol has his own fruit, which I guess we should mention
Oh,
because
you're
we have,
talking about Dalton. You're talking
yeah,
about
Dalton,
Dalton. Yeah, Dalton had like the bison fruit
the
because
bison fruit.
this is the arc where we first learn about like Zoan types,
Hmm.
Oh
which are
yeah,
basically devil fruits that let you turn into animals.
yeah,
So
Hmm.
Dalton has one. He's got the bison one. Um, so
yeah. We see
yeah,
a lot. This arc, we see a lot of new fruits, and that starts with Wapol, who has a fruit that lets him eat anything he wants and like assimilate it into him. And then we see Dalton. And then after they finish climbing the mountain, we see Tony Chopper, who's I really liked. And I was
yeah,
like, as soon as he was introduced, I was like, well, he's coming on the crew. Um,
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. You knew it right away, definitely.
yeah, because they make note like immediately because they want Kureha to join the crew originally, and I was like, I don't think Kureha is gonna join because she's like an old woman, doesn't seem like her
yeah. Right.
style.
She wouldn't really fit with the vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then as soon as they say that, she's like, "Oh, I poured all my medical knowledge into this little reindeer here." I was like, "Oh, well, he's coming on the crew."
yeah,
Yep.
But yeah, Chopper's fruit is super cool. It's what is it? The human fruit?
A human
yeah,
fruit. Yeah.
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 And the first question I had when I saw that was, what happens if a human eats the human fruit? Do they just like?
I think they just turn human.
I actually I think that Oda might have answered this
Okay.
during one of like the SBSs, which is like he basically does. Oh, Will, if you haven't been reading these, you should by the
I've
way.
I've seen
There,
I
he
saw them for
basically
like the first like 100 chapters, but I haven't seen any of them past that.
oh yeah, maybe it's just like the site you have it like hasn't, but you if you go on the One Piece wiki and just look up like SBS, then you can read them kind of.
Those are those little Q and
Uh,
A things at the end, right?
yeah.
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 Those are pretty
I
funny
actually
usually.
think that he might have answered what happens if a human eats the human fruit. Let me
Okay.
see if it's on the wiki real quick. Let me just do a little scan.
But yeah, so
Um,
Chopper is this reindeer that ate the human fruit, and we get a nice little backstory for him getting shunned by his fellow reindeer, bunch of dicks. Apparently, like reindeer are just. I mean, this is obvious like a Rudolph thing because he's got a blue nose instead of red nose. But like
Hmm.
reindeer in fiction, like don't have a good name. They're all always shunning their fellow reindeer.
Yeah, that's
um,
true.
but yeah, we get a nice introduction to Chopper, and he's like a pretty shy guy, but also pretty smart, pretty spirited, and he's working with Kureha as a doctor and a surgeon, and so they fix up Nami, and Nami is she's told to like stay there for like 5 days just because basically they don't have a doctor on the ship, so they need a doctor to watch over her until she's fully through her medicine and her treatment. And then we get well, I guess at the same time, Walpole's attacking Dalton, and Dalton also has a fruit which allows him to turn into a. What does he turn into?
who Dalton?
Yeah, Dalton.
A bison.
A bison, yeah. He was
Yeah. Also,
kind of
like
lame.
I looked it up on the what happens if a person eats the human fruit. So basically, this is what Oda said. I suppose I should say they, and then in quotes, become human. I guess you could
That's what
say
Luke
that
said.
means like, yeah, unless I guess you could say that means like becoming an adult or finding your true spirit or something. So basically, people will live more human-like. Well, I guess you could say that, or not. Basically, not. Goodbye.
that's a pretty, that's a pretty funny response. So basically,
Yeah.
it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
While
it
while
basically
while we're on the
that's the you
subject,
can't swim fruit.
Yeah.
yeah, right, exactly. But while we're on the subject of these crazy fruits, I remember the gun that ate the dog fruit. I think that was introduced in this arc.
Oh yeah, I think that's in Alabasta. That's in the
Oh, and
next
now it
one.
passed. Okay.
Is that like a side story?
No, they just show it in like one panel, and that's all you hear about it. It's like,
That's
oh
funny.
yeah, the gun ate the dog fruit.
That's pretty epic. Um, yeah, so Dalton gets beat by Walpole, and then Walpole makes his way up to the palace that used to be his, that Kureha is currently living in. Um, let's see, something happens before that. Oh, I guess there's like a pretty long. Uh, I guess they start fighting, and then we get. I remember Kyle sent me a Snapchat of this because I remember really
Oh
liking it
yeah.
as they did it. But they start fighting, and Luffy like punches Walpole, or like right before the punch lands, flashback.
Yeah, he goes gum gum bolt, and then there's like and then there's like the flashback starts, and then like 10 or not that many chapters, like 4 chapters later, after like the flashback is over, then it goes lit, and it's like the 2-page spread of like the entire punch.
Yeah, it was.
Pretty great framing device for the
Yeah,
flashback.
those
Hmm.
panels are really cool. I like those a lot. Was the
Yeah,
flashback? Was that Chopper's flashback, or was that
yeah, it
the
was Choppers.
Okay, Chopper's flashback I really liked. Like Chopper's backstory, I really liked. Hero Luke was a good character, and he had a very interesting like his goals and like motivations were pretty interesting. He is somebody that was previously had a terminal disease, and then he found an island or an area with cherry blossoms, and apparently got immediately cured. Um,
Yeah,
so then he devotes his life to trying to find that super cure, but he's kind of a quack
Hmm.
and doesn't
yeah.
have
He
the
basically just experiments on like all of like the townspeople of Drum
yeah.
Island. Like he literally doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, and he just like tries new shit on them. He's like, huh, I guess that didn't work. All right, later.
Yeah, we get like 3 or 4 times that happens where he goes in somewhere. They're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sick." And there's like one that I remember where like it's a guy and a girl, and he like knocks out the girl with something, and he's like, "Uh-oh," and the guy's like, "What the hell just happened?" And then he accidentally knocks out the guy. He's like, "My work here is done," and then he just runs out the window. um, but yeah, he's trying to find the cure that he thought cured him, that cures all, the panacea. Um, and he picks up Chopper after he finds Chopper abandoned by his fellow reindeer, and teaches Chopper everything he knows while also healing Chopper. And then you have like the classic that happens in a lot of movies where it's like, all right, no longer need you. And it's like the classic like guy has to let his favorite animal into the wild type of thing, or
Hmm.
it's like I don't love you or whatever, and they're both like crying or whatever. It was a good,
Yeah,
very good little flashback, and get a lot of motivation for Chopper, and kind of get an idea about what he's about. And yeah, that was a good flashback for sure.
yeah, definitely. And I really like the kind of like idea that Chopper now, because he ended up dying because of like the disease, and like Chopper kind of like inherits his dream of like
Yeah.
wanting to cure everything as the doctor. Which I think that like this is like the first arc I would say that like really like puts this idea like front and center, even though it had been kind of talked about before. But like the idea of like inherited will, of like someone like passing down their dreams, and like someone else like saying like, okay, like I'm gonna fulfill that. And like that's kind of like one of the core ideas of One Piece. Like there's like a lot of instances of that, and I think this is like probably like the first like example that gets like a lot of attention on
Hmm.
that,
Mhm.
which is yeah, I thought it was really well done, and I
Yeah.
like I like the respect that Luffy has for like Chopper's dreams. Like he's when he like goes up onto the castle to like protect the flag and make sure that it doesn't fall down,
Mhm.
um, because he knew that Chopper that it meant a lot to Chopper.
Also, I
I thought
liked
that was a great moment.
Hero Luke's flag was pretty sick. The skull and crossbones with the cherry blossoms, very cool.
With the
Yeah,
Sakuras, yeah.
Um,
yeah,
and that becomes the flag of the island after everyone leaves. But before that happens, they have to face down with Walpole. I thought the fight was pretty good. It was pretty interesting. The two henchmen of Walpole were, they were pretty funny. They
Yeah, I
looked,
like how Walpole fuses them.
yeah, they looked very interesting. And yeah, the fusing of them was, I was like, are they like dead? Like, did they merge?
Like, what are the moral implications of
Yeah.
this? That's what I want to know.
What exactly happened? Or is like they merged consciousnesses or um and yeah, so is it all the crew member fighting them or it's just Luffy, Chopper, Nami's not
Sanji's up
fighting.
there,
Sanji's fighting. I don't
but he doesn't take he gets taken out a little early because of the his back.
yeah,
So
and
I'm pretty sure that it's mostly just Chopper and Luffy.
yeah, and then Vivi, Zoro and Usopp are all on the tram up to the castle, I believe at this point.
Yeah,
Um
yeah,
and so yeah, the fight was good. They end up, of course, beating Walpole. Um,
Sends them flying, right?
yeah, it sends them
The
like
yeah,
Team
the
Rocket
bazooka.
blasting off again.
yeah, exactly. I like how Wapol eats himself at one point during the
Yeah.
fight. Luffy's like, "What the hell?" He just turned into a bucket, and then he like comes out and he's like slim, and he's agile now.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Um, and then yeah, so they beat Walpole and Luffy's like, "Wow, Chopper, you're fucking cool." Actually, he tried to recruit Chopper before that, just because he thought Chopper was really cool.
Hmm.
Uh huh.
He's like, Chopper, you're a monster. Get in my crew. And they're like they like chase Chopper around the castle for a bit. Um,
Mm-hmm. Well, because at
yeah,
first he wants to eat him.
yeah, yeah.
Extra food.
Yeah.
And
But then
then
he's like, okay, no, you're cool. I'll recruit you to my crew. And then after that, they find out that he's a doctor. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
like Nami, like there's a moment where Nami's like, well, why did you want to have him on our crew? Like I thought it was because he was a doctor. And Luffy's like, no, like did you see his transformations? Like that's sick. And then like Sanji was like, oh, I just thought it would be cool to have emergency food supply on our crew, which was pretty funny.
yeah. And then so yeah, they try to recruit him, and then he's like, nope, I want to stay with Kureha. And then Kureha's like, doesn't she like get out of here? Like I don't want you anymore, basically. Like basically tells him to join their crew.
Yeah,
And then she's like, nope. Oh, she knows that Nami wants to leave and stuff, and Nami's like, I
hmm,
need to leave, and she's like, no, I can't let you go until you're healthy. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go to this armory by myself while you're here, and if anything happens to you, I'm gonna be upset. Basically hinting
yeah,
like, Nami, you gotta get out of here. So she ends up leaving. She gets the key to the armory, and they get the cannons out, and they end up as they're leaving, they like fire the cannons and make a nice cherry blossom rain in the
yeah.
sky, which was a nice send off for sure.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. They turn the snow pink. Looks like cherry blossoms. Super cool.
Yeah. Um.
A highlight for me was the giant giant rabbits, the lapens.
Oh yeah, those are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
actually really love how like Luffy helps one out after the avalanche. Like he like helps one get up. And then later on they like help Luffy out like in one of the fights.
yeah,
And they're like, what the hell? Like why are they helping people? Like they
Oh
never
yeah.
do
they're
that.
beefy boys too.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
my favorite, like, really small thing was like the hiking bears, and it's like, oh yeah, every time you gotta see a hiking bear, you gotta bow to the hiking bear. And I was
Yeah.
like, what is going on? And like, there's like a panel later down the line where it's like, I think it was Usopp and Vivi, they're like doing their own thing, and in the background, you see like a random person bowing to a hiking bear. It was
Yeah.
the smallest and just most silly thing, and I loved it.
I think Chopper does it during his flashback too at one
Yeah.
point.
uh, um,
No, but the one of the great moments in this arc was when like he's like I don't remember what I think like Usopp was like freezing cold or something. Like he's like, oh my, like I can see the light. I can see the light, Vivi. And like Vivi's like, no, you're not supposed. You can't die from being too cold. And so she literally just like beats the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And then like he has like his face is just completely swollen. And
Yeah.
then later like Zoro comes up and he's like, "Oh hey Vivi," and then he looks at Usopp for a really long time, and then there's just like one panel of like Usopp's nose sticking out of his like swollen face, and Zoro goes like, "Oh, you must be Usopp." Good
Yeah,
shit.
Usopp is like known. Everyone's like, oh, you mean the long nose guy?
Yeah, yeah, pretty funny.
Yeah. So they set off for Alabasta, and then we get a nice scene at the end with Dalton and Kureha see the wanted poster for Luffy, and uh, they mention that I'm just reading the wiki here because I didn't remember the specifics. They mentioned that
Oh
Gold
yeah,
Roger's real name was Gold D. Roger.
yes,
Oh yeah, that's
Um,
big info.
very important, big info. Because
yeah,
yeah,
and
and then she
then
also mentioned something about the will of D.
the what?
The will of D. She's like,
Oh,
oh, I guess the will of D is like living on or something because Luffy's name is
yeah.
Monkey D. Luffy.
And then two people are like, "Oh shit, there was a guy here, and we wanted to give him a mess or give Luffy a message." And so someone's following them, and we don't know quite who.
Hmm.
Yeah. They do say his name though. We don't
No, they don't
know
say his
anything
name
about
till
his
later.
connection.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, they don't.
No, I
Oh,
don't
I
think
thought
so.
that they said that his name. Okay, whatever. Well, we don't know who he is, but he's very mysterious and he
Yeah.
wants to know Luffy. But also, we find out that this man is tracking down a pirate whose name is Blackbeard,
Oh
and
yeah,
he
yeah,
came to Drum Island, and he's the reason that Walpole is no longer there.
yeah.
Like one of the reasons that they think he's such a shitty king is because when Blackbeard the pirate showed up, they just left. They were like, we can't beat these guys, so we're just gonna leave. And so that's why that's why Wapple was gone in the first place. So mysterious guy named Blackbeard.
Yep. And then yeah, uh, that's the end of those chapters. Overall,
Yeah,
pretty good chapters. A lot of introduction to new stuff. Lots of cool stuff with the Baroque works and a lot of new fruits that we get to see. Because before this, we'd only seen the smoke fruit and the what's her face has a fruit. The slippery
Alvida.
skin. Yeah, she has a fruit,
Yeah,
and
we
then
also see
Buggy has his
Buggy's
fruit.
fruit.
Yeah, I think those are the
Yeah,
only three that we see before this, and then just during this
and then
chapter,
Luffy's. Yeah,
we get to see three more, which is pretty cool.
yeah, and yeah. I mean, I like just devil fruits are way more common on the Grand Line. Like
Yeah,
even like in Whiskey Peak, we see like a bunch of fruits. And it's like, you know,
yeah,
I think we see. I mean, we definitely have seen more fruits just in these just from like the Baroque Works agents than we had the entire East Blue. So
yeah, and
definitely a lot of fruits.
and the funny thing that I noticed was like before this, like before chapter 100, everyone's like, "Oh my God, that guy has the power of a devil fruit," and then
Yeah.
Yeah,
now everyone's just like, "Oh, he's got
Yep.
the devil fruit."
And anyone
yeah,
who's anyone is gonna have a devil fruit
Yeah,
now.
for sure.
And it probably speaks more to the people who choose not to have a devil fruit and if they can hold their own.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, definitely.
Um, it's kind of funny that like all the strongest pirates up to this point just can't swim, which is I guess the
Yeah,
irony of it.
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, you got to have some people on your crew that don't have devil fruits so that they can save you if you fall in.
Yeah, I'm sure there's
Like
probably a devil
there
fruit
is
out
like a
there that.
panel. There's like a panel where like not like for like a gag, Nami like throws Luffy like off the ship or something, and then Sanji has to like go in and like and fish him out of the water
Yeah,
because you know he can't swim.
yeah.
Um,
I'm expecting there to be a devil fruit any day now. That's really like the the float fruit or something where you just float in water.
dude, the water fruit is like has been theorized for so long. It's gonna be the most powerful devil fruit of all time because everything is water. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Some fruit like he's got one that turns into a human, and then Dalton's got his fruit. There's got to be like a fish fruit out there, turns you into a shark or something.
Yeah, damn.
Interesting.
But I guess you have fish people already,
Great
so.
theory.
But yeah, all these chapters were pretty great. Lots of new stuff, and
Yeah.
You gained a crewmate.
gained a crewmate, Chopper,
Yeah.
who I was pretty hyped about because he's pretty
Yep.
cool.
Now you
Also,
got a doctor on the crew.
yeah, Doctor on the crew's pretty important. Also, I mentioned this to both of you guys separately, but when Chopper showed up, at first he looks exactly like Smokey the Bear. It's like this giant hulking figure, like giant buff, like furry creature with a
Yeah.
hat on.
Yeah.
He looks exactly like Smokey the Bear. Um, but yeah, new crew, pretty hype, or new crew member, pretty hype.
I've
And
got a question for Mr. William.
yeah.
It would be interesting to hear your answer, but I mean, we got a cook, we got a doctor, we got a navigator. Like you know we're gonna get more crewmates.
Yeah.
What what do you think Luffy might need on
The
his crew?
musician, of course.
Musician. Oh yeah, yeah. He's talking about that already, right?
Yeah. We talked
Yeah.
about this during the last episode. We thought it was hilarious that he's just like, we don't need a doctor, we need a musician next.
Yeah.
Because all the pirates like to sing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, all that set up for Alabasta, which will probably, I think the next episode will just cover Alabasta.
Yeah, and it like just the whole thing because
Because
I
it's
mean I think that that's a little bit longer than the chapters we covered here.
yeah,
And this is yeah, I think this is like a
it's
good amount.
62 chapters. Alabasta
Yeah,
is.
so like 10 more, I think. This
So
was like 50.
that will be plenty. And yeah, we'll cover that next time. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about, or?
Yeah, I mean it's I like one of the things that's really cool that like is introduced like just is as the concept of the Grand Line. Like I think that this is like basically the perfect setup for like a long running shonen, you know, just like the fact that it could literally just never end. You know, like there's just like you just the next arc is just logically just the next island. And so it's like it's really good in that way. But because there's like always progression towards like the final goal of like what's at the end of the Grand Line, but then at the same time, it's like also an excuse to kind of like split it up into like nice little arcs, like most of these like long running shows
Yeah,
do. I think is it's a really good premise, and
very
then
good
also like
premise.
they can be like isolated but also like connected like like these were all like kind of like each island was their like own thing, but they were definitely all connected with like the Baroque works kind of plot that's going on over the whole thing. So it's like cool that we can kind of like have like a more long-term thing, but then also like short-term payoffs with like each of the arcs individually. So
Hmm.
yeah, I like the Grand Line as a concept and
Yeah.
like as like a setting for such a long series.
All right. Next episode will be Alabasta, and that is it for today. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.